my friend Bernard in Northumberland, commissioned specially for tonight. They're slightly longer than normal. Just to alert you. The format is quite simple. We have a hymn, and then we have, at the beginning of each station, the station announced, and I'll say, "We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross," and everybody replies, "because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world." And then we'll normally have, particularly the early stations, the story of different characters, some biblical, some imaginary, but they might well have been there. And then we'll normally sing in two of every 3 stations a verse or a chorus, like "Look around you, can you see?" or "Come and praise him." And we continue through to the 14th station, and the final prayer after the 14th station to be said by everybody. That's the point at which the lights go on. There are lights about to go off. I hope you have a torch or a mobile phone that will help you to see when the lights are off. I'm going to give one final switch of stations, and then we'll begin. But I hope that's reasonably clear. And if it doesn't, there is a pattern, and it does become apparent as the time goes on. So we'll start in 1 minute. As those who have been here before, we have no idea who's coming, so everybody receives their part as they come through the door. Let's stand and sing our opening hymn, "We Cannot Measure."
Amen.
commend, hands which shaped and saved the world, present in the touch of earth. Spirit, lead us here, and the body, mind and soul, through disentangle peace from pain, and make your broken people. Please be seated. The first station, Jesus is condemned to death. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you. The story of Dido in charge of Pilate's stables.
My name is Dido. My status, I'm a slave, but I have something the Roman apparatus needs. I can handle horses. I have a way with them. I manage all the herd, spot the best breeding stock. More importantly, I manage Argo in particular. Argo is Pilate's favorite mount. He's a challenge to handle. Some see Pilate as a weak individual. When it came down to handling Argo, Pilate was anything but. He was a good horseman. Not as good as me, mind you, but he was good. Argo was a fine specimen and had sired many of the foals in the yard. He was strong, majestic, haughty, and willful. I worship the god Poseidon, and I view Argo as a descendant of Poseidon's loins. I understand him, and he respects me. If ever a human can be deserving of an animal's respect, loyalty, yes, but I'm not sure about respect. Affection and loyalty, yes, but I'm not sure about him holding a mere human in high esteem. I'd witnessed the behavior of those who claimed to be the people that the only true God had chosen. I saw how they behaved. You could see that they viewed themselves as superior to anyone not of their race. This is why my loyalty remained with Poseidon. A horse's sense of smell is 10,000 times more sensitive than that of a human being. The smell of blood served to heighten Argo's anxiety. He was tetchy and excitable. He was spooked. He started kicking out with his hind legs, a sure sign of distress. He was trying to break the stall. I held his halter, stroked his muzzle, gently blew in his nostrils. There was no pacifying him. Holding him drew all of the reserves of my hefty frame. Then I saw the bloody mess that was a prisoner being led through the stables. And boy, was he bloody. I got a whiff of the blood, a sweet, metallic sort of smell. If it was noticeable to me, I could only guess what it was doing to Argo. As the prisoner neared, Argo seemed to quieten. 2 or 3 times he snorted, deep, heavy exhalations, purging his body of the tension that had consumed him so quickly. The guards escorting the prisoner were wary of Argo. "Keep him moving," came the command. The prisoner had different ideas. He paused in front of Argo and reached out a hand to rub his muzzle. None of the soldiers challenged him. They were more wary of the horse with the fearsome reputation than the displeasure of their commanding officer. Argo saw something in the prisoner that no one else could. Their eyes locked. Argo was calm, like a sailboat on a windless day. Majesty met majesty. There was no other way to describe what had passed between them. Later, much later, I would discover the identity of the bloodied figure. Once Argo had settled, I stole away to Golgotha. I reached the place just before the end. Most of the hysteria had dissipated, but I witnessed his final humiliation. Silence fell on the tableau before me, a silence that echoed in my ears. I was confused and disheartened. I came away and returned to Argo. The world of Argo was much simpler to understand. Argo, fruit of the loins of Poseidon. Or had I, like the prize stallion in my care, witnessed majesty? If so, then before that majesty, I must now bow.
The second station, Jesus takes up his cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you.
Because by your holy cross you have redeemed me.
The story of Josiah, a carpenter and labourer.
I should have been home hours ago. My name is Josiah. And I was past being irritated. I was now angry. How long do I have to hang around here? You don't get to ask questions. You're just here to do as you're told. So you wait and you shut your mouth. Oppressors only knew violence, either spoken or physical. That's the way they operate. My wife would be worried, but there was nothing she or I could do. Our lives weren't our own. They belonged to others. We were their playthings, nothing more, nothing less. Eventually, they dragged in the prisoner. What a mess. Whatever color his clothes had once been, they were now streaked in blood, some fresh and still wet, some brown and dried on, and his face. I couldn't look. His whole head was wrapped in what looked like the Sisyphus branches. They were so tight that even the simplest movement would be excruciatingly painful. Speech was out of the question. He was as if dumb before everyone. I was given my task. Strap that beam across his shoulders, pull his arms, and make sure they are tightly bound across the timber, double knots. He mustn't be able to drop it. There was a glee in the voice and tone of the Roman guard. There must have been something in my expression that gave me away, because the next thing I felt was a blow across my face. Do it! 2 underlings held his arms outstretched and aloft. I tied the beam across those arms. I couldn't look him in the eye. I hope he could see my hands were like his arms. They were tied. I had a wife and children to think of. I couldn't go against my orders, even though I hated myself for being so weak. When I had finished, I did look into his eyes. Those eyes were burning, not with anger at me, not with hatred for me, just burning with love for me. He understood. We were both part of the same event, equal players in a drama not in our control. He understood me and my situation. He accepted life as it was, not what he would like it to be.
The third station, story of Josiah, continued.
I watched him leave. I was packing away carefully, storing the unused rope. Rope was expensive. I was ready for home. The size of the crowd and onlookers meant the journey would be difficult. I would be going in the opposite direction to the flow of humanity, eager to satisfy their bloodlust. I decided to bide my time. I would sit a while till my journey was easier, more straightforward. There was a yell from the crowd, "He has fallen!" Followed by, "Get the laborer back here quickly, get him here now." A soldier came for me. "You're wanted up ahead." The prisoner was lying flat on his face. He couldn't push himself up with his arms, and the beam across his shoulders was weighing him down. The command, "Help him up," was immediately followed by a blow in the small of my back, "and make sure the beam is secure." I wasn't in a position to argue. I did as I was ordered, and I hated myself even more. Should I take a stand and face imprisonment myself, or worse? Life has always been cheap in this part of the world, but should I stand up for what is right and heap disappointment on my wife and children? Did I have the right to subject them to such misery? Could I live with myself whichever path I chose? Damn that bloodied and bruised man. I'd heard of a nomadic preacher capable of ruffling feathers, but couldn't know for definite if the prostrate figure before me was the same man. I could not unsee what I had seen, and my response to what I had witnessed would be my burden for all time. I needed to be home, back in the security of wife and children. I turned to make my way against the flow of humanity. I would not go with the crowd. I would be on my own man. But not before I spotted my friend Simon, who was being carried along by the crowd, a crowd propelled purely on hysteria. Simon and I worked together in the past, so I said to him, "Keep an eye out for that poor sod. I don't know what he has done, but he doesn't deserve what's happening to him." I knew Simon. He was a bit of an outsider, but he was a good man with a big heart. He wouldn't let me or him down.
Jesus meets his mother. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you.
Because by your holy cross you have redeemed me.
The story of Rachel, a neighbour of Mary and Joseph in Nazareth.
Even in his late 20s, he addressed her as Imma, Mammy. In your male-dominated world, you won't have heard that word, Imma. Everyone knows Abba. No one knows Imma. When he hit 30, wanderlust got the better of him, or at least that's what we thought it was. He would disappear for days, sometimes weeks on end, but I always knew when he was back. He'd be calling, "Imma, Imma," while still a long way off. I'm Rachel, and I lived next door. I had been widowed, but Joseph and Mary were great neighbours, fixing here, mending there, a listening ear, always a helping hand. We were all close. I would pop into their house, they into mine. Sometimes, when fuel was scarce, Joseph would light a big fire using offcuts, and we would cook together in the yard between our two houses. His mother and I were like sisters. For as long as I knew her, tongues had wagged. The lingering question about the pregnancy and the identity of the father of her child dogged her. There were too many questions for some, and her refusal to be drawn only added to their intrigue. She knew the pain of being misunderstood. She bore the burden stoically. For some time now, Mary has been worried. She didn't always fully understand her son, but then, which mother amongst us does? Motherhood brings with it a wonderful complexity of angst and joy, never at the same time and never in equal measure. The pangs of childbirth can live on for many a year. Sons bring joys and they bring disappointments. Such is the nature of family life. We nurture our children as they grow in the womb, but from the moment of their first wail, as they greedily suck air for the first time, they begin their own journey toward independent living. We don't breathe for our children. They breathe for themselves. And the time will come when they provide for and feed themselves. Mary knew only too well that each day meant her role was diminished. He was his own man. She came to me one evening. She felt that something big was happening, and she asked me if I would travel with her to Jerusalem. One of his followers was special to both of them. His name was John. John had cautioned her not to go, but Mary would have none of it. So we packed a few things and took turns on her oh-so-willing donkey. The next few days passed in something of a haze. The atmosphere in Jerusalem was febrile. Passover was approaching. The Roman soldiers were twitchy. Everyone was on edge. There was no point in trying to do anything apart from allow the crowd to carry us along. We desperately tried to retain modesty and decorum. Then she saw him. I saw the look on her face. It was a look I will never forget. "Emma," he croaked. "Bar," she cried. In these two words lay unspoken love, implicit respect, silent devotion. Anguish was etched on their souls, an etching that was deep yet fine, delicate yet strong, finer than any engraver could achieve. I saw her eyes. They weren't hollow, they were alive. She saw, as if for the first time, the completeness of the life before her. She had already embraced her own life, and now she embraced his suffering, and in those two, she found fulfillment. She had always possessed the sort of eyes that go hand in hand with suffering. It was those same eyes that were sensitive to the bride at Cana, as she saw the depleted wine stocks. Long before anyone else noticed the dilemma, Mary did. That day, as she stared at his bloody body, those same eyes were full of vitality, and I realized that she now fully understood. There was always a deepness about her. Often in the past, I had found her staring into the middle distance. "Where have you been, Mary?" I would ask. She would just turn and smile, an enigmatic sort of smile in that moment when her eyes locked into those of her son. She understood. The enigmatic smile had been replaced with a look of recognition and acceptance. All of the horror and blood and violence, she found an inner peace.
Simon of Cyrene helps Jesus to carry his cross. The story of Simon of Cyrene and further reflections from Josiah.
I wasn't a Jew, and boy, did others remind me of the fact. All Cyrenians were viewed as outsiders. The Jews were masters at accentuating people's differences. If your face didn't fit, then it didn't fit. And nothing was going to change that reality. When you are an outsider, you develop a thick skin. You have to. At first, I didn't know what the commotion was about. I became aware of a crowd, a growing crowd, a manic crowd, a crowd bordering on hysteria. I started to follow. Soon, I was being carried along. They trod on my feet. They skinned my shins in their desperation and haste to get ahead of me. My old pal, Josiah, was trying to make some progress against the flow of humanity. "You're going the wrong way," I shouted. "I'm not, believe me, I'm not. I'm going the right way. There's a prisoner up ahead. You can't miss him. They are taking him for execution. Keep an eye on him. He will need your help. And I know that you will help him." I was pretty sure I would do just that. Those without status have little to lose and are more willing to give from the little they do have. I did find him, as Josiah suggested I would. He was flat on his face. 2 or 3 of us helped him back to his feet. Crowds were pushing and jostling from all sides, adding to the general chaos. A brute of a Roman guard grabbed hold of me. "You are not a Jew, are you?" It wasn't a question, it was a statement. It was quickly followed by, "You will do." His commanding officer took over. "Stick to him like glue, help him. Make sure he doesn't fall. Your job is to get him to Golgotha. Don't let me down, otherwise you will be joining him." I lost count of the number of times he stumbled and fell, walking barefoot, with the oppressive weight across his back and shoulders, not to mention the stones and spittle and rotten fruit that were pelted our way. It was a miracle he stayed upright. Sometimes I managed to help him up on my own. Other times, I needed the help of others. I couldn't be certain that they were helping me out of innate goodness or because they were anxious to help keep him alive until the execution. Humans love a scapegoat. It makes them feel better about themselves. I helped him as best as I could. but once or twice it was too much for me, and I too fell. We panted and drew breath. We pressed on. We reached Golgotha, and I was summarily dispatched. Of you go back to your hole. I am older now, still an outcast, still an outsider. I meet up with Josiah from time to time. We talk of his family. I'm always keen to know how they are all doing. Sometimes he asks, "What about you, Simon? Is life being kind to you?" I tend to reply, "Oh, so-so." One day, I felt it was my turn to question him. So I asked him, "Do you ever think about that day?" I will never forget his response.
Do I ever forget about that day? I prefer not to. It's a constant reminder that I could have stood up for someone else and chose not to. I feel I betrayed my own values and betrayed a man I had never known. That's the thing about betrayal, isn't it? Sometimes I see his face. I remember those eyes. Not hatred, not anger, just an overwhelming love and acceptance. And what did I give him in return? Just an overwhelming resentment that I was made to work overtime, to stay behind late. You were a far better witness than me, Simon. I salute your generosity and self-giving. For weeks afterwards, everyone spoke of that Cyrenian, the one who helped. They remembered that at first you were press-ganged, but by the end of the journey, you were a willing helper. I wager that everyone will remember you, Simon, the man from Cyrene. But no one will remember me, Josiah, the coward.
Face. Who was she? The woman whose name means true image. The widow of Nain, Jairus' wife. The Samaritan woman at the well offered living water. The woman taken in adultery, humiliated, terrified, saved from stoning. The woman who bled for 10 years, ceremonially unclean, unable to worship, to offer sacrifice for sin. Denied atonement, forbidden to mix with others, unclean until in faith she touched the hem of his robe and was healed. With the recognition as their eyes met, roles now reversed, one who has shown such love and compassion, now receiving it. one who had known such love and healing, now giving it. Who was she? The woman who stepped out of the crowd, the woman with the handkerchief, the woman who knelt in the dust to wipe God's face. Who was she? The woman whose name means true image.
Reflection. A tree.
A tree should grow tall, be free to touch the sky, put forth green leaves, bear fruit, give shade. Know dawn and sunset, birdsong and joy. But if cut down, be planed, polished, carved with love into another life. Make things to please or to serve, a gate or a crib, beams for a house, toys for a child. A tree should not be grossly used, left rough and ugly, bleeding saps, carried through streets, a thing of shame. Should not know hatred's nails, the weight of sin.
The 8th station. Some women of Jerusalem weep for Jesus.
We were a close-knit group. We'd been with him for most of his public life. That day, we decided that safety lay in numbers. The men in the crowd were definitely in touch with their base instincts. Half a step up from animal, there was a wildness in their eyes. Jesus had raised women to a new level, given us all a new status, but status would not always protect us. We hung together. My name is Mary. I'm the wife of Clopas. You won't recognise the names of many of the others. You'll know Mary of Magdala, Mary and her sister Martha, but probably not the rest. We had no doubt of his innocence. He was a victim of greed and ambition, a victim of male arrogance. He spoke out for the disadvantaged, and those who enjoyed advantage at their expense could not allow this to continue. He had once spoken of the difference between God and money. He told us it was impossible to serve both at the same time. He reminded us that no one can be the slave of two masters. Either we will hate the first and love the second, or love the first and treat the other with contempt. That day, we witnessed him being abased. Mammon was having his say. We supported each other with our words, but when he stood before us, words failed us. For what could we say? He stared at us, and we at him. It was our eyes that were able to communicate. What did you communicate, I hear you ask? Love and acceptance. He was accepting of everything, for in his acceptance lay his vindication. And through that acceptance, his love for us soared to new heights. In those eyes was a conviction that he was winning, he would be victorious, and we were witnessing his glory. Jesus was treated with contempt that his words, his example, his love for people like us was being completely validated before our eyes, and not only our eyes, but through the eyes of any of the onlookers and bystanders who possessed a shred of dignity. There was one woman hanging around us. She wasn't one of us, but she was with us. She was confident of her ground, of her right to be there. She was secure in her space. She carried some sort of towel, continually tying and retying it around the belt that held her outer garment. She was nervous. As Jesus approached, she pushed her way forward. She stood before him, halting proceedings. The Cyrenian was grateful for the pause. Grabbing the towel from her waist, she reached up to him. She mopped the blood and the sweat that were streaming down his face. Her fingers and the backs of her hands were ripped by the ziziphus branches that had been tied around his head. Their bloods mingled, but she didn't notice. Despite the pain and torture that tore through his body, he smiled. A warm smile, a loving, accepting smile. He was grateful for her simple act of kindness. The procession passed. The woman was anxious to fade away back into the crowd. I caught her arm. I was angry and jealous. Why had she assumed it was okay to show such intimacy? How do you know him? My tone was half question, half indignation. I didn't want to share Jesus with a complete stranger, someone who wasn't part of our group. I knew that this attitude went against everything he stood for. But I was feeling raw, and with that rawness came jealousy and self-preservation. The moment those words left my mouth, I felt shame. How had I allowed myself such a level of self-pity? She was unfazed. Some months back, he stayed for a few days in our village. People like you view yourselves as superior to us, for we are Samaritans, outcasts. He made us feel included, part of his life. I gave him water from the well because he was thirsty and it was a hot day. He gave me much more. He taught me how to love myself. That's all. I didn't really know him, still don't. But he knew me. He knew me better than I know myself. And with that, she melted away into the crowd, like water disappearing into arid, sandy ground. I was at the well, and he was thirsty.
The 9th station. The story of Hannah, the mother of Judas.
There had been a time when Judas was full of excitement and zeal. He wanted me to accompany their party to Jerusalem. He felt big things were going to happen. He'd given up his job to follow Jesus. He really believed in him, that he was the one who was going to free us from the oppression of the Romans. But gradually, he became disillusioned. And then it all turned sour. And the speed of events in those last few days was overwhelming. I was staying at an inn, and a friend came to tell me that Judas was dead. He'd hung himself from a tree. And apparently, Jesus was to blame. I went rushing to find Jesus. And there he was, crumpled on the floor, beneath a heavy cross. My mind was in a whirl. What was going on? There seemed to be chaos everywhere. Jeering, chanting crowds, blood and sweat, and an atmosphere of complete anarchy. It was as if we'd all gone to sleep and awoken in hell. I looked at Jesus, and as he lay there in a heap, all our dreams seemed to have crumpled with him. I called out his name, and he turned and looked at me. He must have sensed my grief, my complete lack of understanding, but he didn't turn away. It was as if he was willing me to trust, to keep on believing. But how could I? When you're overwhelmed with grief, how can you keep focused on some bigger picture that you cannot understand? He struggled to his feet. The blows rained down on him, and the jeering and the spitting took on renewed frenzy. He looked for me again in the crowd. He looked hard at me, and somehow, I don't know where from, I was given an inner strength. Why did I suddenly find the ability to trust? I don't know. But crazy and mad though it seems now, I did trust. And I followed him to Calvary in my pain, my grief, my anger. And I cried out, and I sobbed, and I broke my heart. But I followed him.
We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you. The story of Dido from the stables continued.
I made it there for the final humiliation. I too had once been stripped. It was just before I was sold as a slave. The Roman soldiers used our naked bodies as a way of conveying our worthlessness. By now, his garments were well and truly caked onto his body. I knew that earlier he'd been whipped because I'd heard the flailing as I tried to quiet Nargo. Some of the soldiers delighted in tearing those garments away. The bleeding started again, but this time there was little blood left in his body. They left him standing, naked as the day he had been born. They made fun of him and jeered. I relived the day when I, as a 14-year-old, had been similarly stripped and sold. My life was worthless in the eyes of the occupying force. All I could offer him was a silent recognition. I know how you're feeling. I thought back to a few hours earlier when he and Argo had stood before each other, eyeball to eyeball, each silently acknowledging the majesty of the other. In his nakedness, I recognized majesty. The authorities probably thought they were demonstrating dominance. I realized how different dominance was to majesty.
Time
the story of Macbeth.
Why didn't you just refuse? How on earth did you get involved? It was easy for those on the outside, those who didn't understand. When you're the victim of an oppressor, you don't have rights, you don't have a voice, you have no say. I didn't refuse because I couldn't refuse. I recognize that. The Roman occupiers knew that, as did the Jewish authorities. I would do as I was told because to disobey would have far-reaching consequences for the people I hold dear. The irony was that Joseph, his father, had taught me everything I knew about carpentry. How to carve, select tools, create joints, select types of wood. Everything I knew I had learned from Joseph, his father. He had been like a father to me, too. He was a good man. By the time I left Joseph to strike out on my own, Jesus was a strapping 16-year-old. Joseph couldn't afford to employ me as well as Jesus, so I left. And as a parting gift, Joseph gave me a small set of tools. I had a wife and child to support. They were my priority. I would do anything and everything for them. And therein lay my dilemma. Priority overtook principle. I didn't refuse because my family had become my priority. He recognized me. Of that I had no doubt. Have you noticed the way some people can acknowledge you with the merest inclination of the head? That's all that he did. He inclined his head in my direction. I tried to return his gaze, but knew that if I held his eyes for any length of time, I would have no option but to take flight. And then what of my family? My principle was sacrificed on the altar of priority. He didn't cry in hysteria. Yes, he winced. He winced with every blow, but hysteria never controlled him. I finished. I looked at the hammer that now seemed to burn in my hands. Joseph had given me that hammer. It had a balance to it that always made my job easier. The irony wasn't lost on me. I wanted to discard it, but to do so would take away something of Joseph and Jesus and me, and it would serve as a reminder of the constant battle we all face between principle and priority. I pray that you might be more victorious when it comes to your time to choose. My name isn't important, but if you must have a handle, call me Macbeth.
A reflection on the centurion.
He hates this hill, dreams of some distant plain with Roman legions marching, standards raised, or some great battlefield. He hates this hill, the heat, the flies, soldiers dicing for the perquisites of death, the sights and sounds of hell. He fears this hill, where once earth quaked, day turned to night as God's Son died. Forgiveness on his lips.
Taken down from the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you. A reflection. Mary of Nazareth.
No place for a woman, the Via Dolorosa, no place for anyone desiring untroubled sleep. She should have been prevented from following, presented later with his body, washed and shrouded, smelling sweet, wounds decently concealed for her goodbyes. But no one dared to speak into such terrible silence. All the way she walked with him, measured his slow steps with hers, saw everything, eyes fixed on him. No place for a woman, Golgotha, no place for anyone desiring untroubled sleep. She should have been prevented from watching and hearing such obscene sights and sounds, witnessing such pain, but no one dared to speak into her terrible silence. All the time she waited with him, measured his gasping breaths with hers, saw everything, eyes fixed on him. Over at last, they took him down, laid him naked and bloody in her waiting arms, echoes, shades of Bethlehem. But no adoring shepherds here, no angels, no bright star. Just the throbbing anger of earth beneath that hill, unnatural darkness, and the sound of God tearing a curtain in that terrible silence.
We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you. The story of Joseph of Arimathea.
I was there at the end. There was an inevitability as well as an acceptance as he heaved himself once more against the burden of the weight of his body. But he could no longer suck air. He suffocated. The air was still. The birds were silent. There was no other sound. There were no more than 15 people there. I recognized some of them, but not all. John, one of his disciples, was holding his mother, who was sobbing. She had buried her face in his chest. Children expect to bury their parents, but the pain that accompanies a parent burying their child is quite different. I knew Pilate. He owed me a favor. I had under my toga a handwritten scroll permitting me to take the body. I handed it to the Roman guard. I also told him that I would take the other bodies too. No one had come forward to claim them, but they too deserved to be buried. Removing the nails from Jesus' body was not easy or straightforward, but we managed. I took his lifeless body and handed it to Mary, his mother, who gave one last lingering embrace. There was nothing I could say. Unfortunately, I had the wisdom to say nothing. We carried his body to the tomb I had intended for myself. But it seemed wrong not to give it to his mother so that she could use it for her son. We carefully laid it out and covered it with a fresh roll of linen. John said, "Shouldn't we say something?" Everyone nervously fidgeted. We stared at one another. Then some words came to me. Words that Jesus had used at the end. It is accomplished. It was. Little did we know at that time that it wasn't completely finished.
Mary's Friday, a poem.
Why have you forsaken me? Why did my yes so long ago arrive here, at a place riven with anguish? How can it be that friends who followed, surrounded you, are nowhere to be seen? Why does the enemy have the upper hand? And yet, before the end, you call another son to be sole friend. Call me to be at home with him, with them, the many daughters, sons of faith, hope, of love. And so, to find you there again.
And we stand. And we say the final prayer together from Misha Kois's Prayers of Life. Try and give you some light. Let's all forget it now and all go home. He is buried, and the stone is in place. His family is in tears. His friends are lost. This time it really is over. Lord, it is not over. You are in agony until the end of time, I know. People tread the way of the cross in relays. The resurrection will only be completed when they have reached the end of the day. I am on the road. I have a small share of your suffering, and the others have theirs. Together, we help you to carry the burden that you have assumed and made divine. There lays my hope, Lord, and my invincible trust. There is not a fraction of my little suffering that you have not already lived and transformed into infinite redemption. When the road is hard and monotonous, when it leads to the grave, I know that beyond the grave you are waiting for me in your glory. Lord, help me to travel along my road faithfully, at my proper place in the vast procession of humanity. Help me, above all, to recognize you, and to help you in all my pilgrim brothers and sisters, for it would be a lie to weep before your lifeless image if I did not follow you, living on the road that all people travel. The peace of the Lord be with you. Let's share that peace with each other. Thank you very much. Thank you. There is tea, coffee and goodies in the hall afterwards, just through there on the right. And we hope as many people as can will join us, although it's been quite a long service, I know. Thank you so much to everybody for coming, to our musicians, to our live streamers, and to everybody who's played a part, and particularly to our wonderful readers who got so much warning and who read with such aplomb. Thank you. Let's sing our final hymn. Helpless man. persuade you to come for tea or coffee? I'm trying to remember names again. Divine. Okay. One day I'll remember. Okay, it's tea. Okay. Nice to see you, Divine.